Arno, one of the great joys I've had in working in this area of design thinking in my career is I get to work around so many very can-do, positive people. And it's a great part of the process because you're trying to do something often that is very ambitious, and that's part of it. And you note that optimism is a part of the E.C.H.O framework that you've talked about. So talk about that from a KM perspective as well.
I think a lot of KM practitioners are probably optimists, if only because they've been trying to get their organizations to move.
So they're kind of wired that way.
I think they are, and if not, it's probably helpful to be an optimist because it is often a very misunderstood domain. I mean, partly to our own fault, but partly also because it's so intangible. But I do think it has to do with optimism. And that's one of the things that inspired me from delving into design thinking. It's actually you have to believe that you can change things. I mean, if you don't, then you might not want to start, or you might want to do things that are more routine and have a lower risk of failure. And so you have to believe that. You also have to, and it's part of the optimism, you have to have fun doing it. So I mean, there are a few examples. I always try and inject fun into my KM projects. One example I can give is we organized the No Olympics with a K, which was basically a large competition to gather best practices in knowledge sharing. And by no means originally, this was at the World Bank, this was by no means an original World Bank thing, because other organizations have done them, the Olympics. But since it was the Winter Olympics, we thought we'd have an original person present the medals and do the keynote. And in the end, we had asked the original captain of the Jamaican bobsled team to present the medals. But more than that, he gave a fascinating presentation about how they, as a Jamaican bobsled team, went from knowing nothing about bobsledding. It was just a crazy idea, and people who've seen the movie Cool Runnings, this is all about that. But from how they went from nothing to actually competing in the Olympics. And he had a fascinating story because they zoomed in on what they were good at, which is obviously Jamaicans are great sprinters, which is a key part of bobsledding, is the first sprint. And then they started tapping into knowledge from around the world on actually the rest of the part of the race. And but they were doing so well that in the end, in terms of knowledge transfer, there were Germans and Austrians and Americans coming to Jamaica to see how they had perfected certain parts of bobsledding. And so this is just to your point that optimism, fun, and also a certain attitude, a can-do attitude is very important. And in this case, we said, okay, let's make it fun. Let's have someone talk who is very unexpected. And so that was, so that worked very well. And so I can recommend, his name is Devin Harris.
Yeah.
And I can definitely recommend if you ever need someone to have a great talk about knowledge management. Another fun anecdote that pops up. This was at a huge KM conference in Europe where my company sponsored. I believe it was the bar. We didn't want a booth, but we said we'll sponsor the bar, and because that's where everyone goes anyway to. And we said, okay, and our theme was, well, what can happen with the wrong knowledge? I mean, things get out of hand. So the clock, the biggest clock at the conference was above our bar.
Yeah.
And so the night before the conference opened, we moved the clock half an hour. And we had a slogan that said, look what happens when you have the wrong knowledge. And so throughout the first day, people start showing up early for we were nice. We didn't have them show up late. But they were showing up early to all these events and running around, and we just sit there and we had our.
You had your fun.
We had our fun. We said, "This is what happens when you have the wrong knowledge." See, and
it's so probably not an unforgettable event for them.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, but it was fun, and I think after about half a day, some guy got on a ladder turn back the clock. Yeah, enough of the fun. But my point is that it can be fun, and yeah, you can really highlight the human element. There's another example that just popped up is where a big intranet was launched with a lot of people profiles, and there was when the system was launched, a band was created based on the profiles. So we found a guitarist, a drummer, a singer based on people's profiles. It had nothing to do with the business. It had nothing to do with their work, but it was a way of showing people that you can actually have fun. It can actually have a benefit for you. This new system, and they created a band, and they played at the launch of the new intranet at this company. So you can make it a lot more fun than it usually is. I think.
Well, those are great things to remember, I think, for people that are trying to understand how these two subjects link. The notion of understanding these key elements, this E.C.H.O frame that you've sort of put on it, the idea of being human-centered or being empathetic, experimentation, being collaborative, and then this whole idea of being optimistic is a great subset of the value of design thinking. I don't think it's everything, but I think it's sort of the essence, and I think someone like you who's been in the knowledge management area for so long is a good one to capture what the essence of that methodology is as applied to knowledge management.